Good evening, friends, and welcome to another live reality games podcast. We are here today to talk about Survivor at UVA Wahoo Warriors, episode 13, titled I Don't Think I Can Beat Her. I'm Kirk, your host of the podcast, and with me today, we have the man from Survivor Michigan, Cooper. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, as always.
It's always a pleasure to have you, and you've been following up really quick, Cooper. We didn't talk about this earlier. Are you spoiled in this season, or do you know what happens?
I have no idea. Zero clue.
Oh, you're with me, so I have a lot of questions for you. So anything, what have you been thinking so far of the season?
This has been one of my favorite college seasons that I've ever seen. So I loved all of Maryland. I've watched Boston, but this one has been fantastic. So I've been talking to Ryan, who also edited the season, and just hyping him up after every episode because each one is so good. So this has been amazing, and I can't wait to see how it finishes out.
Absolutely. And the finale is coming out tonight. So stay tuned, follow up on this. If you haven't watched episode 13, well, you could go and watch that, but I'd say watch this as well at the same time. We're going to be full of spoilers. We'll catch you right up so you can watch the finale and be with us in the live chat on YouTube later. As well, we have Travis, our season 1 contestant from UVA, and also the vice president of season 4. And if you watch the episode, you can find him filming the challenges. Welcome, Travis.
Hey, what's up? Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this one. Season 4 is one of my favorite seasons to be a part of, and the cast was so great, as you guys have talked about before. So I'm really excited to get into it.
I'm stoked to hear your side of it, and being a nerdy I'm a teacher and I like organizational structures. One of the things I hope you can get into, Travis, is you're the vice president. You've been president before of this group, and I'd like to know how you create this and how you put it all together. I'm fascinated by that. Maybe that's for a different episode, but I'd like to get a little teaser of how you guys do that, because for us not in the college environment, I think we can learn a lot about the structures you guys create. And as well, with us, unfortunately, I'm so sad that you are not in the last episode of this season, but we have the incomparable Erin. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. You will see me a little bit in that episode. I'm on the jury, but happy to be here. Happy to have Travis here too. He did my confessional, so he can correct me if I mess anything up about my own game. He probably knows it better than I do.
So you guys were pretty close. I love this. Erin, you always have great quotes. I mean, my favorite quote of the entire season is "Fuck Margaret." It is absolutely so perfect.
It's one of my favorites as well.
But we have a couple of great titles, Ryan and Genki, that maybe could have made it, maybe are on the cutting room floor. But I really liked, did it feel great? Abso-frickin-lutely. Erin, referencing the finally, it worked out in your favor at Tribal Council. What did that feel like for you?
It felt amazing. It had just gone week after week after week. I was just scraping by, and it just things got bleaker and bleaker and bleaker, and then one goes my way. It just felt great.
And you were always playing, you were always trying. I don't know if you've watched the podcast, but I was consistently talking about how you've been working Ryan since the start of this game, it feels like. And at least you were trying. I mean, he wasn't budging, but another great quote from you, in my opinion, Erin, is "Fuck you and your vote for jury management." Oscar award right there for Survivor. You get the Emmy. I love it.
Thanks.
It's fantastic. So where does that come from? Well, we'll get into that right now. So the episode starts and we have the aftermath of the tribal council. Erin, I mean, this is the one that went in your favor. You want to just break it down? What was the aftermath like?
Yeah, so this one was the one that broke up the first year alliance, the first year 5. And Ellie and I you know, the week before Ryan had talked to us and was like thinking about flipping. So we thought it maybe was going to go ahead the week before, but it didn't. So it had just been against us and against us and against us, that when like we just couldn't believe that it could go our way. So when it did, amazing. And then also we had Mario, who was so upset that Lauren went home. Turns out he knew it was going to happen and all of that. But to us, we really bought his act of like being distraught. So we thought we'd done it, we'd shattered it, and now we had like Mario and Ethan and Margaret and Ryan, and then us. And if you have 3 pods of 2, it's much easier to work in with that than the way that it was before. So we were feeling pretty good.
One of the things I keep wondering is like the acting ability of people like Mario and Margaret, because it seems like at times I feel like the look on your face looks like you're smelling the bullshit. Like it looks like on your face, you're reading it, you're like, but maybe it's your only option is what I'm thinking. Like there's no other choice but to try to play into the bullshit and see if it makes anything happen.
Right. You always think someone's lying to you. You always think people are like being fake with you and whatever. You know, I think I did at that particular moment. Maybe Mario was playing it up for like Margaret and Ryan so that they knew he was really mad or something like that. Maybe I knew that he was being over the top, but I definitely didn't think that he knew at the time. So
Cooper, as you've been watching this episode, we're down to these 7 players who are left at this time. Who to you is really standing out with a good shot to win this game?
Well, okay, so I have to start this by saying that on the podcast between Michigan and Maryland, before UVA even started, I had a winner pick, and it was Erin. Fun fact. So I was rooting for Erin the whole way, and I think she was playing amazing from the bottom. But then obviously besides that, like, you've got to say that that group of 3, like Ryan, Margaret, and Mario, have kind of just like steamrolled the game up until this point. Like everything that they've wanted to happen has happened. So I've been super impressed by those 3. And then Erin just fighting, clawing from the bottom, winning immunities. And then even this time, she loses the immunity challenge. It was a close one. And then it seems like she's going home and she gets it to a tie and she just can't quite get people to go to rocks. So yeah, I think those 4 to me are the ones that are like stand out as the really good players from this season.
Absolutely. And there's always great players that get cut right at this moment in the game, right? So I think that's a good segue into the challenge. The episode there's a couple things that come down, but we can talk about that in a second. We get to the challenge, and the challenge, I think, is an important challenge for players, future players, the meta survivor players, to think about as you're playing a game, which is if you get far enough, you may run into a challenge where you are asked questions from your past. Big Brother players are generally very good at this. Survivor players, maybe not so much because we don't expect it as much. But this is a challenge that comes up now and again, and Erin is killing it through most of it. I mean, you're staying there, you're in the lead, or you're in second place, it seems like consistently. I'm terrible at this stuff. So, Erin, I don't know how you did it, but did you feel like, I'm sure you did, you felt like you had to win this challenge, right?
Sure. Yeah. I won the last 2 challenges. Definitely the only way I made it through both of those tribals. So, like, having broken up the 5, I think it wasn't quite as dire as the week before, but definitely like knew I was top target for a lot of people in the game. And watching that challenge back, you know, I just watched it earlier today. There's so many things you're like, losing it by 1 vote. There's so many things, so many answers to the questions that you're like, if I just remembered that Kevin played soccer, I would have won this challenge. And I mean, the same thing could be said for Mario if he had gotten one of his answers right, or any of the other players, but it just kills you a little bit to watch that back.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a fantastic challenge. Sometimes these don't translate well to television. This one did. Like, Travis, you were recording it, so I mean, I'm sure, what was your reaction as it's happening?
It's crazy. So of the final 6, I was actually assigned to do Aaron's, Ethan's, and Ryan's confessionals. So I had a vested interest in all three of them, and really like all the people that are left in the game. Like I appreciate great gameplay, and I also appreciate the underdogs. And with Aaron, me and her really got close during the season. And I don't show that at all when we're filming it because I can't show bias. But while I'm filming it, I just keep thinking, oh, I can't believe she's going to pull this out. She's going to pull this out. And Aaron, if you want to talk about the tiebreaker that wasn't shown, you're totally welcome to.
Oh, God. So there was a tiebreaker before the tiebreaker that you saw that I am very thankful got cut out. But it was a list, the people that were voted out in order. And so you had 20 seconds to write them all out. I had every single one except Lauren. I didn't write down Lauren. Because we voted her out like 10 minutes before. And
Yeah.
Mario had also gotten one wrong, so that's why we went to the second tiebreaker.
Oh, fascinating. So
that's the other thing that's really interesting about this challenge. It took place right after the Lauren tribal. And I don't know if people have been asking, but you can tell there's we asked questions about the jury members, and there was like one Lauren question. And the reason that was is because we didn't know for sure who was going to be voted out going into that challenge. So we didn't have any questions necessarily prepared except for that one.
Oh, wow. So sometimes for those of you at home that look at these games are well planned out, but sometimes things happen like ties, and you thought of a tiebreaker or you get a second tie. And so I know at Survival Challenge, they call this a lemon rule. And a lemon rule is either a way to make a challenge go quicker because you're stuck in a time frame and you have let's say 30 minutes to get it done. So you have to change it up. Or in these sets, you have to declare a winner. At Final 7, you can't have two people with immunity. I guess you could, but that would be pretty drastic. So one thing that I thought was interesting too is the final question is a question that comes up quite a bit in these games, which is how many total votes were cast. And I just got to flex for a second because I got some. Let me change this up. This is my screen share, folks. This is my technology thing I'm going to work on. All right. Let's see. Okay. I got this. Okay, so here is for the last game I hosted, Adventure Coco Pele in 2018. This is my dear. Oh.
Kirk, just a heads up. I don't think I have audio on my end. I don't know about Travis or Aaron.
No, I don't hear it.
I will learn how to do the audio later. This is like Zoom. I have to click another button. But anyways, what our amazing queen is asking is the same question that was asked for the tiebreaker at this challenge, which I thought it stuck out as a memory to me. So all you Coco Pele people out there, there you go. So we have our trivia, and Aaron, you're in the consistent lead. You just played so well the whole time. It's so awesome to watch players that are just always trying so hard. But I think it's interesting that this episode's all about ties. It just consistently is a theme of everybody can potentially win, which goes into my theories too. I have a theory today that's a little bit different than all the previous episodes of these podcasts of who I think wins. But it goes back more into these podcasts. I think I've been getting clues from the contestants. Not anybody's overtly said anything, but I'm just judging on reactions. So I'm going to save mine for a little bit later. But Cooper, you mentioned the three, and Aaron. Aaron's been eliminated. Out of the three, only one can win. Who do you think is playing the best game so far?
So I think Margaret's playing the best game, but my winner pick is actually probably Ryan at this point. I just think he's going to probably present his case better to the jury. And I think there's been some little editing hints in there that kind of led me to that. But yeah, I mean, they both played great games. I see Mario probably going next. I think just at this tribal council, Ryan's pretty just overt about it. And I think Ethan and Ellie are probably on board. Ryan still has his idol. So Mario, to me, if he gets there, has a really good shot, but I don't really see him doing that. But honestly, Ryan and Margaret, a toss up between those two.
Absolutely. I feel similar. I bounce back and forth. Ryan did say in this episode to Margaret that he intends to use his idol to vote out Mario at 5. But I do wonder, Margaret was very hesitant. And it seems like when Margaret is hesitant for something, it doesn't always happen. So I'm wondering if it actually is going to play out. I don't know. Ryan has all the power, though, really. He can make the decision without her at this point, which would be even more interesting because they like each other. And I think that's really... So, Aaron, did you know at this point in the game that they were interested in each other? Do you remember?
No. I remember saying to someone after the season ended, I was like, oh, I think like Margaret and Ryan are going to be a thing. And someone was like, that's old news. Like... So no, I like had suspicions, but definitely didn't know that they had kissed when they did or like anything like that.
So they were keeping it on the DL pretty well. I mean, that'll be so interesting. Now, I don't think we are aware at home if it's a final 2 or a final 3. Am I correct, Cooper? Maybe I'm mistaken, but I'm still unsure. I don't have it written down in a note.
Now you have me doubting, but I thought that it had at least been hinted that it was a final 3, maybe, or maybe that's just the assumption I've been running under. I honestly don't now remember, but I think it's a final 3.
So if it's a final, see, this is where my strategy discussion gets into. Oh, of course, Naomi. Thank you for joining in. By the way, watch her Survivor New York. I think the next podcast is out on Tuesday, if I'm correct. But yeah, this showmance is real and it's hidden, which is so great and why it's so effective, I think. It would be really interesting to see another Survivor where we see a couple at the end. I mean, we saw that in All Stars on the Real Show. If you've watched Surviving Reelfoot season 2, we see 2 boyfriends and at the final 2, which is like, how did that happen? But in this sense, it would make a little bit more sense because people are unsure that they're together. I mean, we know they're strategically together. We just don't know that they're romantically together, which is fascinating. So a lot goes down in this episode. Ethan is in a really interesting position because he doesn't want to work with anybody. Travis, did you say you did Ethan's confessionals?
I did, yeah.
What do you remember kind of his thought process at this point in the game? Like what he doesn't want to work with anybody, but he's a really good sport. He's sticking to it. He's trying to make a move.
Yeah, I think Ethan, at least like at this point in the game, like from what I remember, people did not necessarily see Ethan as much of a player, but as someone who got to hear his thought process every single week. The guy thought through everything. I had a favorite thing about each of my 3 people. Erin had some great quotes, like you were saying before. She always had these like great quotes that she would just throw out there. Ryan just knew how to speak really well, and Ethan would just game bot everything for me. He'd go through every single possibility and think through what's the best way to go. And for this, once Lauren was voted out, that was as his closest ally, as he mentioned. And she was like his link to Mario. And, Ryan and Margaret just turned on him after he tried to turn on them. And he's just thinking, well, I've had this perception that I'm not doing anything and now I need to do something, but I need to do something that's going to get me to the end. And it was really just those 2 thoughts swirling around each other.
Yeah. So one of the things that stuck out to me earlier in a podcast, and the finale's coming up, so I'm going to talk about these now. I feel like I can, is I mentioned, kind of thinking Ethan has a shot to win because he doesn't look like a target. And sometimes we see those people get to the end. And if there's enough blood on everybody else's hands, maybe he just snakes enough votes and wins it. But when I said that, Lauren, if you're watching, Lauren, you laughed hysterically. And so I don't think Ethan is going to pull it out because of that laugh. Just saying, Lauren. But I'm wondering if you guys at UVA have been pulling the wool over my eyes this whole time, because I had a special guest, Margaret, in I think the first episode. And now I'm wondering if that was a clue to Margaret winning the season. So now I'm flipping around back to, I don't even think I was on Margaret because I thought she was going to lose. But anyways, I'm thinking, Cooper, I'm leaning towards Margaret now because I think there's this meta. But I'd like to talk about Austin Zavatki just posted this, and I think this is a really interesting Survivor kind of meta question. What makes a threat a threat, and what makes a goat a goat? Like, Aaron, you are perceived as a threat. What makes you a threat and not a goat? Like, let's break this down, because apparently nowadays I think you almost want to be a goat in Survivor, and so I don't know, how were you perceived as a threat?
You know, that's a good question. I didn't understand that I was perceived as big a threat as I was watching back. I didn't see that. And so you'll see in this episode when Ryan says that he wants to take me and Ellie to the end because it will split the upperclassmen vote. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, let's go. And so, because to me, I had just hung on, you know, I hadn't been in any position of power. I hadn't like called any votes or anything like that. I had literally just survived. So it's interesting. I think it's like really interesting just about the way that like people speak to each other and the way you're perceived as like, oh, this person's calling the shots versus this person's following. It's interesting.
It is. And I think maybe a really interesting discussion, maybe not here for today, but is like in a strategic way to talk about how do you get rid of a threat level? If you have a high threat level in Survivor, can you get rid of it? And what are the methods you could try to take? What are the steps you could try to take to lower that threat level? I think that would be an interesting podcast for some different players from different maybe Survivor games to talk about. Putting it out there for you people. I'd love to watch it. So.
And I think that's one thing that I love about Survivor is that the jury then picks the winner. Like, it's a very insular opinion circle. So if one person starts to think you're a threat, you sort of, and it spreads, it sort of becomes true just by the basis that like other people think it's true. And so if you make it to the end as a threat, then you've done something, you've accomplished something, which is that you got to the end as a threat. Versus if you're a goat and you get to the end, it's not an accomplishment because you were, you know, just let there. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting, Aaron, is you talk about the insulated environment of Survivor, which is so true. And I think that's why when we watch these heavily edited episodes, we can have such a differing perspective than the players in the game of what is actually happening, which makes for great TV. I love being wrong. So don't get me wrong. I love it when Ryan, I love it when you trip me up. So I hope you bring a lot of twists to this last episode. I'm looking forward to it. So this episode is really interesting because it's really about the players deciding whether or not they want to tie this vote, right? Like, a lot of people see it as an advantage to tie the vote, and some players see it as a disadvantage. Ethan spills the 3-2-1 blast off that some people are talking about, somebody hinking a vote after the vote is decided to be 3-3, and I think it's, you know, what ends up playing out, Aaron versus Margaret. How much of that were you trying to like? One of the interesting conversations, Aaron, is between you and Mario, where he legit says, "I'm going to throw a vote, but I'm going to throw a vote on you." And I was getting thrown back to, I think it's, what is it, Gabon? Was it Survivor Gabon, where she tells her to her face, "I'm going to vote for you." Well, you played it up very well, Aaron. I'm just wondering, what does that feel like when somebody says, "I'm going to vote for you," and this is in your best interest?
I mean, it's like one of those things where that week I met with every single person, as was mentioned in the tribal. And so I knew that people were like not on my side, and you just, you know, you nod and hope that like it works out. So no, I think that if he had actually voted for me, there was no way that I was going to be like, oh, it was just a pretend vote. Like,
So Ryan kind of had you guys duped as well, because I remember Ellie questioning if Ryan was going to be with your guys' side. So I do like how you guys were trying to pull that majority as much as possible, but it comes down to a 3-3 vote. And guys at home, like, this is such an interesting tribal council. Like, I was riveted. I was working out in my basement because I didn't watch it live, and I'm like screaming once we get to rocks. Like, this is Survivor at UVA Wahoo Warriors, where they were chanting rocks, like they were excited to go to rocks just a handful of episodes ago, and now they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to go to rocks anymore. Aaron, you clearly at that point, rocks were great for you,
right? Yeah. This episode that we were chanting rocks was the episode that Max had an extra vote, so we were like playing it up like, oh, let's go to rocks, but we knew he had the extra vote, so we knew that there was no way we were I think literally everyone who was playing at that time knew that Max had an extra vote. But yeah, we were pulling for Ryan to vote with us before Mario got immunity. That was the plan in my mind, was like, let's go me, Ellie, Mario, Ethan to vote out, Mario or Ethan, Ryan to vote out Mario. Obviously Mario won immunity. That didn't happen. That wasn't on the table. But yeah, at that point I wanted to go to rocks, but I kind of feel like I got caught back on my heels or something. I wasn't on my game as far as like convincing Ethan and Ellie that it was in their best interest to go to rocks. I like was taken aback by how strongly Ryan and Margaret thought I was such a big threat. Because in my mind, it was like, oh, you just break up the three of them. But then they're coming at me with like these points that I couldn't refute, in that I had a lot of friends on the jury and that I had won 2 challenges and broke up the alliance. And I was like, hey, I am a good player. Maybe it does make sense to vote me out. So yeah, it's hard to watch back.
The ending of this episode is the hardest part to watch back for the game, because it's almost, well, I think I'm jumping the gun. I did want to talk about a little bit, Travis. Like, this jury, Travis, they were definitely like insulated themselves. They definitely wanted to be petty. They definitely wanted to steal the thunder of the players in the game and act like they could not give any more fucks about this game, which I love. Like, I'll put it out there. I love a petty jury. I love a bitter jury, even if it's just for fun, because it's the game. It's like, literally, you got burned. You're not going to win. So you have the right to feel your feelings, in my opinion. But that's for the players in the game, how you deal with that. But they come in with what? Cheez-Its and plates? Like, Travis, what's production thinking?
We were thinking how great the season is, first of all. That was the first thing that came to mind. The biggest issue for me was watching them thinking, wow, like, they're pumping up Aaron's threat level. that was the next thing I thought of. But they're just an entertaining group. Like, we really could not have asked for a better cast.
Absolutely. Like, so, like, everybody's entertaining. Even though they're on jury, we're going to still be entertaining the entire time. And I love it. Naomi's got a ton of comments, and I'm just loving it. She's getting into the meta. Naomi, maybe we should like get together with people who are interested in talking about this. So, of course, it's always easy for a large group of threats to make one person on the outside the more dangerous threat. So that's kind of like the meat shield strategy, right? I do know. Oh, sorry, my Chihuahua is barking in the other room. If that gets loud, I completely agree. There's also like the lay low strategy that some survivors will attempt to do and do well, where it's like you don't talk to anybody. But Aaron, I kind of feel like if you had not talked to anybody, your fate is still sealed. Like, they're gonna maybe vote you out as a majority, actually. So I feel like you had to stay a threat this round in order to have any wiggle room.
Yeah, I think that, I don't regret talking to everyone this episode, even though that kind of, is thrown back at me as a reason that I'm a threat. It was the game I was playing. It was the game I was going to keep on playing. And it almost worked. So
it's
almost
so close. Okay, let's just get into it. Okay, so we have, Cooper. at the voting booth, Ellie says, as she's writing on Margaret for the first time, she says, this is the quote unquote, this is the best move for my game. Cooper, what happened in your opinion when you're watching it? Like, what the hell happened?
I mean, the first vote, obviously, Ethan chooses to make it a tie. Like, I think Ethan at that point knows what he's doing. The other side doesn't really want to split the votes anymore. And so eventually it's going to go to Rox. And yeah, you see Ellie being like, Margaret going is the best move for me. And I think Ethan going into that vote is thinking the same thing. And then for me, what kind of really turned it was Ryan at Tribal Council coming out and saying, hey, I want to go against Mario next vote. Like, the three of us need to stick together. And he had brought it up during the week, clearly to Ethan over the phone call, and probably had mentioned it to Ellie. So I think he'd already kind of laid that groundwork and then brought it up during Tribal and saying the three of us need to stick together. We can't go to Rox. And if we go to Rox, one of the three of us is going home. And so I think he threw Mario under the bus and he was like, do this and we're solid. Like, you have me. And so for me, I think that was what really flipped it. And you get then Ethan and Ellie discussing, maybe we should do this.
It's crazy to think about, because I really thought I was going to see Rox for like the, I don't know, like fourth time in my life, like fifth time. It was that close. So for the people at home, most of you know how Survivor works. We get to the point of the unanimous decision, which is not always shown on television. They don't always get to it, but it's where they can choose to make that decision. And Aaron, it's almost like Ryan was a hypnosis. And you have been talking to him all season, because I feel like he almost convinced you. Like, you were like, fuck it. I want Mario to be gone too. So like, it's almost like you were okay with the final decision. And is that kind of how you went home as you're nodding your head?
It's a very interesting moment to look back on. I think anyone who plays Survivor, like, you surprise yourself sometimes. You learn things about yourself to, go a little Girl Scout on us. But yeah, it was at that moment that after Ethan had decided that he was fine to not go to Rox, that he was fine with me going home, it was just Ellie. And Ellie and I had been an alliance from the very beginning. We'd been tight. And there were, people that said to me after, like, why didn't you push her harder? Why did you nod? Why did you, like, let her vote you out? And there's a quote from, I think, an episode ago, or maybe 2 episodes ago, where I say something like, oh, like, they're not playing to win, they're playing to make friends, or something like that. Something to that extent about Mario, Margaret, and Ryan. And it's like, I was proud of her for stepping up and being like, I don't need you, because up until that point it had been us working together. Yeah, and I thought that if I stepped on her to get to the end, that the jury would hate me anyways, that, like, at that point I wasn't making it to the end. It was also, what doesn't come across, I think, in the episode, is that whole thing was like half an hour, 45 minutes. I don't know, Travis, how long would you say that was?
That sounds about right. Half an hour to 45 minutes.
Half an hour to 45 minutes of this discussion. And they had a bunch of times, like, said, yeah, let's go to Rox. And then it was like, are we going to Rox? Are we going to Rox? Are we going to Rox? And then it'd be like, well, let's just hold off for a second. I'm 99% sure we're going to go to Rox, but, like, let's discuss it a little bit more. And so, yeah, it was just relentless. And I'm just, like, holding on and trying to make my points and and then I like get on my heels, and Ryan starts to make a lot of sense to me. And when he's making sense to me, I feel like I don't have an argument. And it all goes back to, like, that. And, do I regret nodding? I don't know. It's like one of these moments that just rolls around in your head for, months later. But no, I'm very proud of Ellie for not going to Rox, because I think that was, like, just on a friend level, like, her best move. But yeah, I think also an important part of the discussion going to rocks was that Mario had immunity, and so it was 2 on our side versus 1 on their side. So just the odds was that one of our side was going home, and like it wouldn't matter essentially. If it had been Ellie or Ethan that had won immunity, and it was, you know, Ryan and Mario versus Ellie or Ryan and Mario versus Ethan, I think it might have been a different story.
Absolutely. You know, with the talk of Mario getting blindsided coming up, was this, without spoiling anything for us, do you think this was important for him to win this round? Was he a name that you were mentioning to anybody?
I've been trying to get Mario out for weeks. He was untouchable for so long because, I mean, even the episode where we pick names out of a hat, I think it's shown Max takes his name out because Max and him were working together. So like even in a random draw, we couldn't get people to vote for Mario. And then the episode that we eventually voted Lauren out, we were trying to get Mario out because Mario has this alliance and he has that alliance, you know? So I think it was my like top goal to get Mario out if possible. Now, I didn't have a majority alliance at the time, so if it had actually come to fruition, you'd have to guess and see. And I think the finale tonight will tell you more about where people's heads are at and like if he was or wasn't like needed to win that immunity. But yeah, we'll see.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so stoked. It's like less than 2 hours away. This is exciting. So, okay, also without spoiling anything, I'd like to get a little bit more around your head for the game because you can tell that you're a strategist. You can tell that you are playing the social and the physical game of Survivor. What was your ideal finals scenario? I mean, I'm thinking you wanted to go with Ellie, but let's say it was a final 3. Did you have something solid? Were you thinking this is somebody I want to take further?
To be honest, one of the things that I love about riding the bottom is you don't really have the luxury of thinking about that. You think about how can I get there, not who do I want to be surrounded by. It's this weird like double-edged sword of like in a perfect world you'd be able to handpick who you go with, but you're on the bottom so you can't make any choices. Like when you're on the bottom you just need to make it till next week. So had I thought about that, yeah, I thought Ellie would be one of the only people who wanted to go to the end with me. Beyond that, like Ethan would have been great. Like once Ellie and Ethan and I were together, I would have ridden that to the end. Like would I have taken Ryan to the end? I didn't think I had much choice if I got to a place where I could make to a final 3.
So I'm interested in talking about Mario, Margaret, and Ryan just a little bit more before this final episode comes out. I want to get a little bit more information. Don't spoil anything. Out of the 3 of them, who talked to you the most? Mario, Margaret, or Ryan?
Ryan.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought. Who lied to you the most out of Mario, Margaret, and Ryan?
Well, Margaret was the biggest lie in that she had told us she was with us for those 2 weeks and wasn't. I mean, Mario is slippery in these sort of Survivor talks. He won't outright lie to you, but he'll just not put enough information. He's very talented at that. So it's kind of like that you see when he says like, I'm going to vote for you, but it'll be like a pretend vote. It's like, it is kind of a lie. It's kind of, you know, so Margaret with that one solid lie and then Mario with the like slipperiness, I'd say.
I can give a little bit of insight on Mario. So Mario, this might help Kirk. He's a Big Brother fan. Like he went into this much more of a Big Brother fan. So you know the little subtle things that people say and how they say them. Like that was a lot of what Mario was doing.
And we can see too, Travis, that he's the thoroughfare of all the information in the the early pre-merge of the game for sure. And so he's just sitting there like the Godfather, like the whole time. And I think that's why we get such cocky confessionals from him that are so fun to listen to. It's like literally like just going back, Mario, I love you, you know this, but like I've never seen somebody like use the language, like saying to other players like that you just don't respect their game. And you can literally just slide by as you say it. And I'm just like, only Mario. Like that's amazing. Aaron, one more question. Out of the three of them, who made you laugh the most?
Probably
like
Mario.
Mario, that's what I was thinking
I mean,
too.
he's a character. He's a lot of fun.
Kelly has a comment for you in the chat, Travis. I don't know. I'm not going to post it, but I thought it was quite funny. So interesting. Like, you know, there's so many different ways that this can go. So Cooper, I know you're thinking that this is going to be a showmance at the end. That's your prediction. I think I'm going to go with you. I know it's more interesting if we predict different things, but I'm going to go with it. But I'm going to predict that Margaret takes the cake at the very end, and Ryan is left editing the series. That's my take. Aaron, you can't really tell us what's going to go down upcoming. You know, I have another question for you, Aaron, just considering this whole experience. First, like a little bit, like how did you get cast? And what's kind of like an overall takeaway from this experience? Maybe not about Survivor, but about the relationships you made.
Yeah, so I got cast. I had a friend who played with Travis in season 1, and he had graduated. I had taken a year off school, so I was kind of in a position where most of my friends had graduated, and I was like looking for something new to fill my time. I like interviewed. I've only seen probably like 8 seasons of Survivor, so enough to know what the game is about, enough to like it, but not like a super fan. But I interviewed, I really liked them. And once you get in it, it's just addictive. Like the difference between real Survivor and us Survivor is that it's like in the middle of our real lives. So you'll be sitting in a lecture and being like, okay, I'm not going to get voted out tonight. I'm not going to get voted out tonight. You're like trying to pay attention. You're like, all right, I got to focus on this. No. Yeah, the amount of hours you spend thinking about it is incredible. And, you know, you're playing this game where you're trying to vote each other out and you're trying to like backstab each other. But that also means that when someone votes with you and has your back and like protects you from somebody else, you just are like instantly bonded in a way that other clubs don't. It just doesn't like happen. So I made some friends like really fast, like really quick friends through Survivor. And, you know, I'm now 2 years out of college and they're still some of my best friends. Like Travis, like some other people. So a really great experience. Even, you know, people in this season that I hate, like, you know, in this season, I hate Mario, Ryan, and Margaret, but they're like, you know, we went to the beach together. We had a great time, lots of stuff like that. So, no, I would recommend if you're at UVA or another college who has a Survivor, start your own. Definitely give it a try.
Yeah, that's just how Erin is too. Like, so like she mentioned, her friend from season 1 that got her into it. That's who contacted me and said, hey, like you should talk to this person. I actually did Erin's interview. And you know, I started doing her confessionals and I had known her for less than a week. And she's sending me random YouTube videos and inviting me to go grocery shopping with her, to film her while she talks and grabs random food items. And like, that's just how she is, man. She just like opens up to people like she's known them for years.
I wouldn't say I open up to everyone like I've known them for years. Travis has a special place in my heart. But no, I think what he's talking about specifically is after one challenge, I went stress grocery shopping and ended up with a whole bunch of stuff that I had no idea like why I bought them. Who buys a squash? I don't know. I did. But yeah, it's also worth saying that like it's hard to play College Survivor, especially as a first year. You know, half this game at this point, more than half are first years. This is their first couple months of college that they're getting into this. And you're like trying to make friends, trying to figure out where you fit in. and you're making friends and also wondering if they like really hate you and want to get you out. So it's brutal. It's both the best thing and the worst thing about Survivor.
That's also why it's so memorable. I mean, it really
Definitely.
sticks with people, and you'll have memories from this experience that you can remember, and you can't remember like details from your wedding from 20 years ago, but you'll remember that time they almost voted you out in round 2, you know.
My favorite thing with Erin, given that I kind of got to watch her whole Survivor arc from beginning, from interview all the way to season 4, was she interviewed us kind of like the Black Widow, like strategic, I'm the badass bitch, like kind of what like Margaret is. That's how she interviewed to us. And watching her go through the game and turning more and more into eventually what we see with her nodding to Ellie, pretty much saying, yes, like it's okay. And watching that gave me nightmares because I remember like how I couldn't believe it. I was like, she made it through. Once I saw Ethan make the second vote, I was like, that's it. Like she's going to make it through. And watching her nod, it's the perfect end to the story. And it just, you know, it's a great end to her arc.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to see how this, you know, impacts Ellie if it does, if she goes further because of this, if she's perceived as more of a goat and she gets dragged further. That would be interesting to see if she can make a move to shake something up at this point. Gosh, there's so much more we could talk about still, but I know there's some other podcasts that are coming out soon as well. So Erin, it's a pleasure having you. I can't wait to see you at 9 and see what kind of damage you bring to them in your final questioning. I hope it's good. And Travis, before we go, you're the vice president of the club UVA that puts this on. If people are, can you tell us a little bit about the organizational structure, and then maybe for groups that want to create survivors at their colleges, Cooper, Travis, maybe you could talk about what steps they should take to get started in that.
Yeah, so season 4 was easily our most organized season, with editing, obviously with editing, but with filming too. Like, you know, a lot of times, Cooper, you might be able to attest this, like footage is easily lost and hard to keep up with. But for season 4, kind of how our structure, and it's always been this way since season 3, I believe, but there's like a president, a vice president, and then other exec roles like casting, treasurer, social, just things like that, where each person on exec gets assigned people to do confessionals for if they would like to. That's kind of seen as like the privilege, a thing that a lot of people want to do that gets them into helping out with exec. And then production's kind of people who don't necessarily want much of the responsibility, but want to be able to show up to things, film things, put their creative ideas into the season. And you know, with the president and the vice president, the role isn't super well defined. It's really more like we're the pickup people. We're like supposed to make sure everything is going smoothly, that, you know, making sure everything is there for a challenge, making sure every confessional is being done, and making sure that essentially like there's no like everything just runs smoothly. Like you got to pick up everything that could be loose ends. As well as doing, you know, the other jobs of doing confessionals, filming, everything else that production or other members of exec would do, but the responsibility more falls on you.
That's so interesting. So this is a great club. Like you don't have to play right away, right? Like if you would just want to be a person who helps out behind the scenes, meet a bunch of people, they always need people to be confessional recorders, to be there at the challenges. For both of you, Cooper and Travis, I'm curious, who decides on the challenges and the structures of the game? Who is there, a team or one person? I'm curious for both of your games that you're a part of.
Yeah, I guess I can take that one first. I mean, at least at Michigan, we generally like plan the whole season before it even starts. Like we know all the challenges, we know all the twists, we know everything that we're throwing in before, because we don't want to get into the season and then be making decisions that could benefit or hurt players, and then bias comes in and all that. So, I mean, whoever, like we take ideas from whoever wants to help. And so I'm sure it's the same at UVA, where you get a lot of past players like Travis, obviously you played and then like came on to production, we're helping out. And that's kind of how the community grows, right? Like a bunch of the players kind of keep coming back and production grows and everyone who wants to be involved gives their ideas, gives their input, and you just kind of all create a season together. So I think that's generally how it works in Michigan.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much exactly how it works at UVA. We plan out, especially the twists are the most important thing for me, just like making sure that when merge is going to happen, it's all decided before. We kind of slot in like the general idea of what we want for what challenge and when throughout. And then like when it's the week of or leading up to the weeks that certain challenges are supposed to be held, we like have a meeting where we just kind of brainstorm and make sure we get out all the kinks and plan it more detail oriented instead of just having that general idea that everybody can give their ideas, production exec, whatever. And it's kind of more of a group decision. And then if there's ever like really any discrepancies, we've been workshopping it more, but there's a voting system and trying to figure out exactly what's the right balance there. But generally, I think most people tend to agree and like we come to a good decision.
That's so a very collaborative effort. So if you are somebody who's also interested in just like you come up with these ideas, there's those people out there that you create games, you can create challenges, you think of that random stuff like us. You're very useful to our team. So definitely create your own College Survivor. Join one of these. I misspoke earlier. It looks like the finale's at 8 o'clock, Lauren posted. Is that correct, guys? Genki wants to post really quick. I might have misspoke.
I believe so. I think I saw in some kind of Survivor UVA social media somewhere that it was at 8.
Okay, good, great. Okay, I'm still on the holiday spirits, the Christmas cheer. So I don't know, but I'm gonna be there to watch it. Friends, this has been a blast catching up the viewers on everything that's been going down. I can't wait to see how this all breaks down. Genki just posted, yes. Check it out. Head over to YouTube. If you have not already liked and followed and subscribed and all of that stuff, make sure you do that today. And make sure you follow us too, because we are going to come right back on tonight and we're going to try to break down this crazy, insane season of icons and contestants. Aaron, it was a blast getting to meet you. I hope, I always say this, but I really, really hope to get to watch you strategically play Survivor again because it's fascinating.
Great, thanks for having me.
For sure, my fingers are crossed. Cooper, it's always a blast having you on these.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. What's coming up for Michigan?
Michigan, we are waist, shoulders, neck deep in editing our season 4, actually, which should come out near-ish future. I don't know. I don't want to give any kind of editing timeline. That's like my editors will kill me. But yeah, look for it early, mid 2021. So it's coming soon.
Fantastic. Can't wait. Can't wait to have some of us cover it. And Travis, it's nice to have you joining us as well. What's coming up next for UVA down the pipeline? Do you guys have plans?
I think there's going to be a lot of focus on editing, hopefully over the summer specifically, because Ryan is really one of our main editors, and as you can see, he does a great job. But he's probably going to want to take a little bit of a break from this because this was obviously a huge project for him. I'm no longer at UVA, so my input is not really that important anymore. Not that I have much time to give it. So hopefully our new host Andrew and our current president Ryan actually is they're really the people that are going to be heading everything for this next bit.
It's so lovely. I don't know what it is about me. I love how it's handed down to other people. It's really beautiful. You hand this down, you give your baby to somebody else, and you go, please, don't kill it, And then they create something amazing, and they.
Oh.
May have lost Kirk.
They create something amazing, and then they shut it down.
Yeah, I'll just fill up the time while he's there. But Ryan did such a great job editing this season. So much work was put into it. And so I just think we can't say enough good things about the hard work that Ryan put in. Sorry, Kirk, I jumped in to take a moment to thank our editor.
I appreciate it because I hit the wrong button on my computer and restarted my browser. So that said, in 30 minutes, we're going to see what goes down and who is going to be the finalists in this great season. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you later tonight.